You're listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
File access granted.
Hello, all you believers, idealists, skeptics, and all those who question the universe around them. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Ty. And this is Cult Talk Conspiracy Season 3 premiere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't even with it right now.
We're celebrating, this will be 3 years of doing this now.
3 whole
2
years.
years, 3 years,
Yeah.
however anniversaries work.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. And this is file 050.
Mm-hmm.
Our 50th official episode. Of course, we have bonus files and various specials and encounters that we don't count chronologically, but 50 episodes. Insane. We've been doing this for a long time.
That's absolutely nuts to think of just how much we've covered in, those 50 plus episodes.
Oh my God, yeah. And there's still a lot of big things we haven't even tapped on yet.
Oh my gosh, so much. I was doing research for this episode. There was just so much that I found in researching this episode alone that I'm like, okay, we might need to come back and talk about that a little bit more because you're going to get a 50,000 foot overview of that today. And then if you guys want us to talk more about it, y'all let us know. Y'all know what to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Let us know at Cult Talk Net. Give us a comment. And, Season 3, and we got something special. We've never had this before.
We have presents.
A fan by the name of Paul reached out to us on YouTube, and he liked the Richard Shaver stuff, and he told, mentioned, he's like, hey, I have some Richard Shaver things that I would send to you if you would be so kind to give me your address. Always very weary about sending random people off the internet my address. But Mike stepped up and gave his address.
Oh, dang. So if serial killers show up, they're
it's on Mike. It's on Mike. So
just leave beans. That's all we care about.
Cult Talk Conspiracy will carry on. We don't really need Mike. So
we'll be fine.
If something happens to Mike, Cult of Lore might take a hit on it, but
they're gonna have heart attacks.
Conspiracy.
But we will live on. We will be all right.
We'll make it. Bailey, here we got these presents. If you want to open those up from our friend Paul.
I love presents.
Oh yeah, this was very unique. We've never had a fan reach out.
Okay, if there's arsenic in this, I am not gonna be happy. Or what is it? It's not arsenic. Is it arsenic or not arsenic?
Shoot, what was that stuff?
Anthrax.
Anthrax. Yeah, I had Mike open this stuff up when he got it. So. Yeah, he sent us a very cool magazine from Richard Shaver. It's a Richard Shaver mystery. Search magazine from July 1973. Ancient History in Stone by Richard Shaver.
Hey, there's a story in here called Our Helpful Ghost.
Oh,
just so you know.
This is really cool. Like, we've covered Richard Shaver a lot.
We really
And now we have in hand a piece of Richard Shaver. Yeah, Ancient History in Stone by Richard Shaver. I really can't wait to read this because Richard Shaver is someone that I had no idea who he was until we covered him on this show. And I'm just so enthralled by this man and his story and the world he created. So I am very excited to read this and learn more about the lore and the legend behind the Shaver mysteries.
The first story he goes into is about the rock books.
Oh,
like how
absolutely.
Insane.
Absolutely. This is going to be so fucking cool to dig into.
This
Paul,
is going to be so cool.
Can't thank him enough for sending this. This was really cool piece to have in our collection.
Oh my gosh.
Of just weird things. I thanked him and he told me, he's like, us fringe folks have to stick together.
Hell yeah, we do, man.
I can't agree with him more. And he sent us something else. He sent this through Amazon, actually.
Oh, really?
The second thing he sent us from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
This is really cool. I've never heard of this book.
Woo!
He had asked me.
Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, he had asked me on Instagram. He's like, "Have you ever heard of this book?" I told him no. And then a couple of days later, this just came in from Amazon. So I have no idea what it involves, and I am very interested to find out what all the cryptoterrestrials includes, because I feel like this could definitely spark some episodes.
So it's already got me hooked because it says a meditation on indigenous humanoids and the alien among us by Mac Thomas. I think is how you spell his name. So I'm over here like, I want this. I need to read this. My meditations are about to get really weird.
We are going to deep dive into this. I can already tell. This is something that's got me hooked as well. As soon as I heard it, the title, Crypto Terrestrial.
These might be the first ever Cult Talks conspiracy book reviews.
They very well could be.
Absolutely.
Very well could be.
Because we've done a lot of reading on different books and articles and magazines and just anything we can get our hands on as far as conspiracies. So I think we could do it. We could do a nice little book review in honor of our friend Paul and his absolutely generous gifts. Thank you so much, Paul. That is so sweet. I love you. Thank you so much.
Can't thank him enough. This was very cool. We've never had this before, so it was very interesting. I was skeptical at first.
Like, is this guy creepy?
Is this guy for real? And I was, because it's just always sketchy, just giving out your address. But Mike was like, give him my address. I live in a secured building, so.
That is true. He's got like top-notch security in there. I walk in and I'm like, I need to be here? Do I really have business here?
But Paul got his gifts and I got you a gift, Bailey.
You got me
for our season 3 premiere.
Why am I the husband in this relationship? I was like, I don't even have a card for him. I'm so sorry.
I bought this months ago. I took like a day trip down to Cincinnati antiquing and I found this. I found 2 of them. I kept one for me, and I got, there was 2 of them. So I was like, I'm getting both of them.
I love that it's titled Classified.
Yeah, I did that for little stamps.
I love that. You're getting like all my Christmas presents this year so that you can wrap them, just so you know. OMG! Shut the front door. That is. Can I open the plastic?
Yeah, it's a issue of Other Worlds magazine. This was before Paul sent us this. I was like, oh, now we have multiple shaver mysteries because I found this at an antique store.
Oh, it has that beautiful book smell, guys.
That's the first thing I did with it as well.
The artwork is to die for.
Mm-hmm. It's great stuff.
That is beautiful. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Of course. Now we have cool shaver stuff for our collections because we've come to know this man through his works quite well over the last couple of years. So
oh my gosh, we have the story of the Sunsmiths on this one too. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I seen it. I was like, I gotta get it. I was like, the guy gave me like hell. I don't know if he knew what he had for one, but he was like, gave him. I think they were like $1 a piece. I was like, I'll take them both.
I'm taking them. I'm taking them all. Oh my gosh! In 1952, books were 35 cents, guys. I can't.
I got you. You got Other Worlds science stories.
Those are cool.
Plus stories, Live in an Orbit and Like It from March 1950. So here's the one I got. Yeah,
sounds like an angry father.
This one has like a Fate magazine ad on the back of it, which is cool.
Is that one? Nope, that one has
got more artwork on the back of it.
That's beautiful though. That's absolutely. I want like a whole wall in my house, like painted like a Fate magazine. Their artwork is absolutely.
I saw these and I couldn't believe the guy was only out for like $1 for them, which I don't know if they're probably worthless for the most part, but to us, we know who Richard Shaver is and the whole Shaver mystery. So I seen them. I was like, I can't pass those up. So
that is amazing. That is beautiful. I am actually going to let you hang on to the crypto terrestrials because. Okay. If I take it home, my other stack of books that I need to read are going to get jealous. But I cannot wait to get my hands on those. And I'm actually probably going to dig into Other Worlds first.
Might see if it's on Audible. It might be on Audible. I know you like doing that.
I love Audible. I do Audible all the time.
Might be something that's on there. I don't know. It looks like a pretty interesting book.
The
little fragments of art that has in it are interesting. Yes. I'm excited to dig into it. And I'm sure it's definitely going to spawn an episode or two.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Or at least definitely be referenced in future episodes as well.
I can't see it not being.
Absolutely.
This is our season 3 premiere. It's a very sentimental episode because it is an anniversary episode, as all are, as episodes like that generally become. And we're actually kicking it back to our very first episode, released on September 6th, 2022. File 001, we covered the Roswell incident And today we are revisiting it. Bailey is going to open up chapter 2 on Roswell, here to celebrate season 3 of Cult Talk Conspiracy.
Oh, yes. And we've talked about revisiting Roswell. I'm pretty sure you could play a drinking game with Cult Talk's Conspiracy on how many times I bring up my dad, which if you do that, you're going to have alcohol poisoning. And how many times we have said that we're going to revisit Roswell. You probably won't reach alcohol poisoning, but you're going to get fucked up if you do that one.
Oh.
So I'm so excited to finally jump into this, especially with 2023 was a huge year for UFOologists.
Oh, 2023, 2024.
Oh my gosh, it's been huge.
It's been crazy. The amount of disclosure and just openness to talking about UFOs and UFO incidents. It's just the golden age.
It really is, though.
Of this. It takes it way back to the 1950s when like everyone was talking about this stuff, and now once again everyone is talking about UFOs and aliens, extraterrestrial life, and it's so cool to like turn on the news or open up news sites and see like this stuff just being talked about, and not in this like hushed like fringe tone, just talked about. It's widely accepted now that we have been visited by extraterrestrial life. And it's validating for a lot of people, and for me, I find it to be validating because it's like all this stuff people laugh and kind of tease about. Oh, aliens! It's a thing. It's fact.
Absolutely,
it's no longer science fiction. It's science fact.
Absolutely. I think I've referenced this story a couple times before, but the very first time like I'd ever really heard of aliens, I was sitting in, I was still living in Georgia at the time, so I was very young, and one of the neighbors claimed to have seen a UFO, and he was very like dead serious, like, I know what I saw. And ever since then, I was like, okay, they're out there. Yeah. So, and to even go further on that, a lot of people were seen as like crazy and it was deceptive.
And I know they talked about in like the disclosure hearings a lot about airmen and different military personnel had experiences and they would just not come forward out of fear. And that's something that the military or the government at least, seems to be actively trying to, I guess, go against and tell people to report what they see. Absolutely. And if you see something, say something. That's something that is very common in my line of work, see something, say something. So I think it's very interesting if it's sincere anyways. The government, you always got to be kind of iffy about, because you never know what the other intention or what the hidden meaning is behind things. But it's very validating time for people who believe in UFOs, extraterrestrial life, because it's science fact. It's amazing that we've reached this point of acceptance.
And we're going to talk a lot about that. Well, not a lot, a little bit. We're going to touch on it. It's going to be very conversational about that hearing. But in that hearing, it was disclosed, just to fast forward a little bit, that over 500 UFO accounts are now being investigated from the time of 2001 all the way up to 2021.
Wow.
Over 500 by military personnel.
That's amazing.
And those are just the ones that were reported and are now being looked into.
That is amazing.
So I would imagine within the next few years, that number could possibly double.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked. But I'm so excited for this one. This was fun to go back to. And I mean, even going back and researching it again and looking back at my old notes, I was still left with more questions about what actually happened in Roswell and how that affects us today. Because there's a huge disclosure problem with Roswell.
Yeah.
Our government was not honest with us about this. And it really spawned the first, is the government really telling us the truth conspiracy, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something that will forever live on as this like bridge of like distrust between the American people and the U.S. government, and especially conspiracy and UFO people always like reference back to Roswell as being this huge misstep for the American government of taking this stuff seriously or allowing the American people to know what's going on. And we're going to talk about it here in this file. Are you ready to unseal it, Bailey? And let's talk about Roswell Revisited.
I'm so ready.
Well, let's do it. Let's unseal it.
Well, without any further ado, it is time to unseal file number 050, Roswell Revisited. The saga continues. So, here, and I know a lot of you guys who are Cult Talks conspiracy long-term fans, you already know what happened in Roswell, or if you just have general knowledge of what happened in Roswell, this part is going to be a sort of flashback to what happened, because if you don't know the details of what actually happened in Roswell, the rest of this isn't going to make sense to you. And it's not going to make sense on why this matters so much. So just going back to the detailed account of Roswell, and again, you guys can go back to this in file number 001. Beautiful episode. Absolutely loved it. It took 3 times to record that episode.
It did.
We did it 3 separate times, and I was so upset with the second time, because the second time I was like, oh, it's perfect. The timing is great. And then the audio did not come the way that it was supposed to, because technology is awesome when it works. But we recorded it the third time, and third time's the charm. There seems to be a Cult Talks conspiracy mantra over here. But anywho, so in July of 1947, wreckage of debris was found on a ranch in southeastern New Mexico. The rancher, named Mac, who would take the debris 75 miles north to Sheriff George Wilcox, who would then take the debris to the commanding officer of the RAAF, the Roswell Army Airfield. Now, that's also very important, because what a lot of people seem to forget is that the debris and the wreckage did not actually happen in Roswell. It happened 75 miles southeast of Roswell.
I think that's something you told me in episode 1. I just in all my years had never known that.
No, and I mean, it's the same thing with like things that happen in Ohio that get taken to Wright Pat. Because we hear of things that happen with Wright Pat, and that's a whole other conspiracy in itself.
That's something I'm surprised we haven't touched on.
I just want to go, and I just want to ask where the aliens are. You're like, my daddy's a physicist. Just show me. Oh, I'm being escorted out. Okay, that's fine too. So the debris that were taken to Roswell Army Airfield were consistent of rubber strips, thick paper-like material, and probably the most questionable item found is the silver foil that could not be wrinkled. You could ball it up, you could wrinkle it, you could fold it. It would return back to its original shape. And no one, and the military was actually very keen on addressing this specific piece of material, because they said our adversaries do not have this, nor do our friends have this. Wow. So this is something that we've never seen before, ever. So the investigation into the debris and the crash was actually launched and headed by Major Jesse Marcel of the RAAF. Major Marcel would actually be the first to go onto the crash site, as well as examine the debris that were found. Now, Major Marcel, and I thought about this as I was researching it, because Major Marcel was he was very accomplished within his military career. And at this current time, he was serving on the 509th bombing group. He was basically testing and researching atomic bombs.
Okay.
Why was he the commanding officer that was sent out to this?
Oh, that is interesting. That is interesting.
Why was he the first
why would
one?
they send a dude that? Yeah.
Why would you send someone on a bombing group out to investigate these items?
That is interesting. I guess, are they maybe considering it? Maybe it could be artillery or
some sort of national defense weapon. So, and we'll talk about this a little later too. The debris that were being sent from Roswell to Wright Pat were actually categorized as a C7 national security interest. So C7, from what I could find on Google, means that it was of civil interest. So things that were going on like in, society and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then national security typically refers to, or national interest, refers to that of national security and weapons, financial, economic stability. And then there was one other one, but we'll touch on it a little bit later. But like even from the very get-go, this thing had military all over it. Like, there's something wrong here, and the military needs to get involved.
Damn.
Because we went from a rancher to a sheriff to a bombing group member. That's a big leap.
That's a huge leap.
So, and we'll talk a little bit more about who Jesse Marcel was and what that did to his legacy and all of that good stuff. But a very, very, very important thing, because you'll hear in the first episode how there was a major cover up, and we'll talk about it. And Jesse Marcel's name was, dragged through the mud. However, Major Marcel did one thing that a lot of people probably would not have recommended that he do. And that was he took these debris items to his home to show his wife and his son. And his son in the 1990s would actually go on to talk about this and about how his dad came in very, very excited. He had been away for about 2 days working on this project, and he had come home for around 15 or 20 minutes to show his family these debris.
So he's like popped in.
Yeah,
like,
he was
check
just
out this
like,
cool
look
shit.
at this. Like, look at all this, which I would totally do that. Be like, kids, come here. Like,
Look at this cool shit.
before
Bye.
the government takes it, come here. So he would show his son, Jesse Jr., all of these debris. And the one thing that was never accounted for was actually these I-beam looking things. And they were described to have some sort of writing or symbols on them that were not known to the Marcells. Both Major Marcel and Jesse Jr. both said that they did not look Russian and they didn't even assemble Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And that was also something that was brought up in the Congress meeting. What are these symbols?
That was brought up in the disclosure hearings?
Yes.
Oh, man.
What are these symbols? Have we been able to identify them? And the answer was no.
Damn. Is there any, I guess, photographic evidence those symbols?
No.
No?
I've never found them. So if someone has
that
them
would
and
be
knows where they
amazing
are,
to see. Yeah, I wonder if it's in like the disclosure
probably.
stuff. Oh, to look.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the disclosure stuff that we got too is like blotchy. Like,
yeah, it's all still redacted. A lot of it's still
like the report we're going to talk about that describes this as a C7 national interest. It's extremely blotchy. It's not written very. I mean, it's written well, but it's just not released very well.
Yeah, is it like redacted still? Black lines.
Yep. We don't know who the researchers are. Just blank research. It was also very important to note that the wreckage that Major Marcel was photographed in in the Roswell Daily Record, because there's this big famous photograph of him holding up this silver like metallic material and
in
just
like
kind
a
of
living room or something.
Yeah, and he's just kind of looking at the camera like, what is this? That was not the wreckage that Jesse Marcel Jr. saw that night.
Oh, so this is like dummy shit.
This was
this
fake. Was fake.
Oh.
This was not what was brought home. And the I-beams are not in those photographs.
So this was like just random ass shit they put in there. Right. Like, oh, look, it's just foil or whatever.
Yep. So it was actually wreckage from an actual weather balloon.
Have you ever seen the miniseries Taken by Steven Spielberg? Oh,
no.
It was a sci-fi miniseries produced by Steven Spielberg. And it like covers, I believe, 3 generations of these like different families who are all affected by like UFOs, and it's from the 50s, like modern day. And it is amazing. It's this huge like family drama.
Ooh, okay.
With aliens and UFOs all at like the center of it. Amazing piece of television. Kind of forgotten for some reason, but it is amazing piece of television. I have it over there in my movie collection. So nice. I have it's awesome. It's just a good show. But awesome. it takes, it has Roswell included in it, as well as like the very early like UFO sightings. It's awesome.
Nice. We just started watching Fringe. Yeah, I love Fringe.
That's a good one.
Fringe, and then X-Files is next. I'm finally going to attack X-Files, guys. I'm finally going to do it.
Finally.
It's only been 3 years.
I know.
Even longer than that. But
yeah. Man, I can't get enough X-Files.
Oh my gosh, it's such a good show. I mean, well, X-Files I haven't seen yet, but Fringe I've seen, and Fringe is such a good show.
I know you've watched at least one episode of X-Files.
Yes.
Because we did it for Cult of Campbell.
Yes.
We did that the episode that has Bruce in it.
And I still love the formatting of it. It's great. So the very next day, after all this had occurred, words be hard. The Roswell Daily Record would actually publish an article confirming the discovery and confiscation of the UFO materials. And the quote that was provided to them confirming this information was provided by none other than the Roswell Army Air Force, the actual military government entity that oversaw this.
Damn.
And it reads, the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence officer of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force Roswell Army Air Force Field was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and the sheriff's office of Shaves County. So this was pretty mind-blowing stuff. And if anyone has a framed or print out of that article, I will pay you all the money I have in my bank account so that I can have that.
It's probably not a lot.
It's not a lot. It's not. Listen, the market has been a little rough for Bailey these days. Okay. Also, if you want to sell your house, let me know.
Yeah,
I need paid. But so this was a very big thing, and it was also a very big problem because the military and Uncle Sam did not okay this statement, and they redacted it within the same day.
Yep.
They were like, absolutely not.
That's crazy. They can just recall a statement.
They were just like,
actually, we didn't say that.
Oh my God. And it had to have been so much harder back then than what it would be today because everything gets released.
You had to make some phone calls and stuff. You weren't like emailing and you're like making phone calls and that driving out the places, probably like taking bundles of newspapers away and stuff. That's
oh my gosh, yeah, it would have been just so much harder.
It was probably a whole like operation, honestly.
Probably.
It was probably like an actual military operation to go and like erase those.
Probably. I mean, you probably got someone got the satisfaction of actually slamming the phone down.
Yes.
Back then, instead of just like,
they were probably like intercepting like newspaper delivery trucks and stuff.
It was probably like a whole thing.
Confiscating bundles of newspaper from stores. It was probably a whole thing. That's interesting.
Yep. Just like, we have to take these for today. Bye-bye. So the statement would be redacted by the military, and it very quickly would be turned into claiming that the crash and debris were found were nothing more than a weather balloon. And this weather balloon would be able to determine the direction and velocity of winds at very high altitudes, according to I forgot to ask Ben about this. I think it's Brigadier General Roger Brigadier. Thank you. I've been watching Bridgerton, so like I'm just really happy I didn't say Bridgerton.
What the hell is Bridgerton?
It's a show on Netflix.
Oh, I never heard of it.
Oh, it's so amazing. It's one of my girly shows. I love it. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a smut show, but it's okay. Yeah. I'm a lady. I watch it in secret. And then this claim of the weather balloon would actually be later confirmed again by a forecaster from the Army Air Force's weather station. And it wouldn't be until the 1970s that Major Jesse Marcel would publicly speak about his experience in Roswell, which I have a lot more information on that in file 00 number 001. So we're going to move on a little bit from there. If you want to know more about Roswell, that file is there. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll link it down below on YouTube. It'll probably be tagged here. So definitely check out. I mean, I honestly should be listening to file 001 before this.
Yeah. It's a good...
If you're a real one.
Yeah. If you really love us. Did you know there was an incident named the Other Roswell?
No.
I didn't either.
At Roswell?
Not at Roswell, but it was in Aztec, New Mexico.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. No, I know like you have like shit. God, there's like a bunch of other Roswells. People call them like, this is the UK Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
With the Rendlesham Forest over in UK, I think so. I'm probably saying it wrong. But there is like a UK Roswell. Mm-hmm. There's like a Japan Roswell. So many other countries have like these things. They tag them on because of the how impactful the event is for Roswell. Mm-hmm. So I know there's things like that, but I didn't know there was like another Roswell in New Mexico.
This took place 1 year in 1948 in Aztec, New Mexico, which is about 5.5 hours away from Roswell, New Mexico. And this would actually be the setting for another flying saucer crash. And the incident is commonly referred to as the Other Roswell. Now, author Frank Scully, I had to make sure that it was not an X-Files reference because I was like, wait a minute, hang on, where are we going here? It's actually quite fitting because Scully is our little guest star today.
Yeah, I got Scully right here.
Yeah, the sweet baby. So author Frank Scully would go on to write about the event in Variety magazine in 1949. Didn't we just get gifts from Variety magazine? No, never mind. Never mind. Nope, never mind. Names be hard.
I do wonder if maybe Frank Scully is reference to like Dana Scully in X-Files. I
wouldn't be shocked. And honestly,
I'll do some more research on that because I've never looked into the meanings behind Scolder and Molly. So or Mulder and Scully. Jesus Christ.
A little dyslexic moment there.
Yeah, that's weird.
So he would write about that in 1950. And then in March of 1948, an unidentified aircraft was recovered in New Mexico, about 12 miles from the city of Aztec. The craft was stated by Scully to be about 99 feet in diameter, 30 meters for those in the UK, and making this the largest UFO sighting / recovery to date. It was ginormous. However, the mystery wouldn't stop there. Because according to Scully and his various sources, 16 humanoid bodies would also be recovered from the crash. 16.
God damn.
And Roswell, I believe, had two or three bodies that were recovered from the crash, rumored to have been recovered from the crash. One was in custody. One was still living and in custody, because we have that big story about the nurse and everything, which we'll get into a little bit later. So the craft, along with the 16 bodies, were suspected to have been taken to the military for further research. Scully would actually theorize the artifacts taken had some workings with magnetic principles, and that's why the government wanted to take them, apart from the obvious, hey, this might be alien spaceship. He also stated that the aliens had stocked concentrated food and heavy water for drinking, as well as each dimension of the craft being divisible by 9, which I actually kind of went on a little bit of a tangent, and I looked up how many times the number 9 pops up in the Fibonacci sequence, and it's 3, which is also divisible by 9, or 300, which is also divisible by 9, which makes sense because the Fibonacci sequence is numbers that constantly feed into each other.
I have no idea what that is. I know nothing about math or numbers.
The Fibonacci sequence is the perfect circle. It's the perfect image. Okay. If you take all the numbers and I'm really butchering this explanation too, by the way, because I barely know what it is as well. But it's supposed to be the perfect image that's the most satisfying to the eye. Is something that
is that the golden ratio?
Yeah. Yes.
Golden ratio.
Yes. Yeah. So the story sounds absolutely fantastical. And I had actually wondered why I had not heard about it. So Scully was, I said he had sources that he also pulled from as well. He had actually gotten his information from a Silas M. Newton and a Leo A. Geber.
Geber?
I don't know how to say that. It's not Gerber. It's Gebaure.
I think Geber's
or Geber.
Geber sounds about right.
Geber. Okay. Geber. So Newton and Geber had were actually cited in his writings for this. It's hey, this was where I got my information from. These were the guys that were there that told me everything that happened. Wonderful. Okay, great. So Scully was already under some scrutiny for his claims and being criticized for having a wild imagination and also being called a scientific howler, which is basically you're screaming from your ass end, really, you don't know what you're talking about. And this would actually become much worse in 1952 when it came out that Silas Newton and Leo Geber were actually con men. Damn. And they were attempting to sell supposed alien technology all throughout the Aztec area.
So they were selling fake alien tech. I have never heard of that.
So it actually started with, I think it was called a doodle bug or something like that. And it was supposedly used to find oil and other minerals within the ground that had come from alien technology. And they were selling this to people in the Aztec area and claiming you use this and you'll find oil right off the bat and it'll detect it, and you just held it above the ground and it would start doing something. So that's how that kind of started. So another victim, because we always want to see these scammers get justice, because we got to stick together in the fringe community, as Paul said.
Yep.
So another victim of Newton and Geber was actually millionaire Herman Flater, who would press charges on the men, and they would become convicted in 1953.
Good on him.
Oh, yeah. Good for you, bud. We're very appreciative of that.
Lock him up.
So the FBI would actually later come out about this story because they were getting a lot of questions from the public about this. Hey, we know that scammers were involved, but is there any validity to this claim? Did anything actually happen? Because something did crash We just don't know the entire details of it. But the FBI would later come out with a statement stating that due to the absent validity of these claims, they did not, nor would they, be investigating the incident that happened in Aztec, New Mexico. So all because of Silas Newton and Leo Geber, we are never, probably never, going to have any research done into what happened in Aztec, New Mexico.
Damn. What assholes.
Yeah, well, fuck you guys.
Fuck them.
I hope you died in prison.
How long do they get, do you know?
I don't know.
I doubt it was long. I can't
doubt
imagine them getting put in there for like long for selling fake alien technology. I don't think that's probably a too serious of an offense.
Almost 100 when he died.
Oh
I just want to know how many years he was in prison. Oh man, he went on from 1951 to 1970 with his fraudulent activity. So clearly
years.
Jail did not stop him.
No, 19 years.
Nope, I can't find it. It honestly could have been like a fine and then like a week in jail time.
Yeah.
Which would suck.
Like a 3-year sentence or some shit like that. Some slap on the wrist. Well, at least they got punished in some way. At least
at least we got some justice. You know, that we will take that. So another big thing that happens with Roswell is the fact that there is government suppression of information. And this was really in my opinion, the biggest tipping point for the public versus government keeping information. Because everyone wanted to know what happened in Roswell. Yeah. Because you gave us one cover-up that it was a weather balloon, and then we get a second cover-up stating that it was a part of Project Mogul, which we'll go into in a little bit. But the FBI would actually release a 1-page document that was written on a typewriter on July 8th in 1947, which summarized the events of Roswell. And in this blotchy document, it is headed with the statement, flying disc information concerning blacked out headquarters. We don't know what headquarters it went to. It's totally blacked out. I have no idea where they went to. So the signature of the person who wrote this this document is also blacked out. Like there's a big circle at the bottom of it. Let's see if I can pull it up.
I guess they would probably with like some Air Force base, like probably Wright Pad or something like that, honestly. I mean, Wright Pad or Area 51, I mean, Groom Lake, something like that. It'd be probably some Air Force facility, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. It does go to Wright Pat, and we do get confirmation of it going to Wright Pat. I'm just trying to pull this up really quick. I know I wasn't prepared today, guys. I'm sorry. I want to just pull it up, and that way I can see. Yeah, so you can kind of, and guys who are listening to this in podcast form, you probably won't get to see this, but our YouTube channel will probably get to see these. So you can see like all the blotch in here, and like it is
typical redacted government document.
Yeah, it's blacked out where it says headquarters. Like, there were notes that were up here that are also blocked out. We have a name that's blocked out. We have scratch mark. All of these signatures completely blacked out.
Every one of them
completely blacked
out.
Yep. So this is not, in my eyes, this is not normal. And it's not normal because it's only 1 page. And I know, we're not that great at keeping records. Sometimes we talked about that in Atlantis. But this is an event that had so many eyes on it. How can you not put just oogles of information?
Yeah, how are you not covering this stuff? Well, I mean, a lot of it's like, at the time, this stuff was hush-hush. It was taboo to even mention UFOs or aliens.
Oh, yeah.
It was seen as like science fiction, like, goofy stuff. So, I mean...
You're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's for them to even have a document in the first place, I think, is like just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
To even have any documentation.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. So the document goes on to describe that the disc was hexagonal in shape and was suspended from a balloon cable. This is further playing into the weather balloon theory. The document also goes in to state that the debris does resemble what would look like a high altitude weather balloon. Regardless of these facts, quote unquote, the debris were still sent to Wright-Patterson airfield offices by special plane.
Special plane.
Citing the C7 national interest. And matters of national interest typically, as we stated earlier, include those of national security, public safety, and national economic security. And C7 does, from my Google search, relate to those of civil matters. The document also does warn about the press trying to break the story, along with the locations of where the disc was currently and where it was being taken. So the press were already like, where are you taking this thing? What is this? Like, what's going on? Because at this time, the article had already been released. The statement had already been made. So they're warning Pat that the press is going to be on you about this. Like, you need to get in line with it. And it actually said, advised would request Wright Field to advise Cincinnati office request of examination, no further investigation being conducted.
Wow.
So they were done.
Yeah, they were telling them, like, just cease it all.
Yeah, we're not, like, Roswell was like, we're not touching this after Wright Pat comes and gets this. Like, we are done. We don't want it. We don't need it. We got other shit to do. So, enter in a man whom I have fallen in love with over these past few days, Dr. Stephen Greer. Have you ever heard of Dr. Stephen Greer?
Yeah. Of course.
Oh, I love him.
Of course.
I love him. If you don't know really who he is a ufologist and a retired physician who founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And he was also head of the Disclosure Project, and he's been very active in Freedom of Information Acts, making sure that disclosure is properly made, not only because we as Americans and citizens of each country need to know what's going on in our airspace, but what do we not know? Like, that's the biggest thing, is what do we not know about these things? Because it can be very dangerous what's going on here, because it's either an alien or it's an adversary that's coming after us, and we need to know which one.
Yeah. Yeah, he has, Stephen Greer does some amazing books and documentaries. He has Undisclosed, Unacknowledged. I have one of his called After Disclosure, which is a really good book. It's like a hypothetical on what would happen in the wake of, like, aliens just without argument presenting themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, how that would affect all different forms of life on Earth, from financial to religious to social. Amazing book, super interesting. He has, of course, Before Disclosure. He's the head of the Disclosure Project. Mm-hmm. So he's prolific as far as UFOs go.
I feel like you brought After Disclosure up either in Roswell or in another episode.
Probably, yeah.
Because I feel like we've talked about this before.
It's an amazing book. I love it. It just piques my interest so much because he goes into so much depth on what's happened.
Absolutely. Because we've talked about, like, what the social and sort of culture impact would be if the government just straight up came out and said, aliens are real, here's everything that we've got. Like, get ready. They're coming. So
yeah. I guess he actually didn't write After Disclosure.
Oh, oops. Well, it's still a fabulous book. Whoever wrote it.
That was Richard Dolan. I apologize. I apologize.
We were ready to give it to Dr. Greer.
Damn, Richard Dolan. That
we
sucks.
Were ready.
But no, everything else I said is true. He did Unacknowledged, Undisclosed, Disclosure, head of Disclosure Project. Actually, the Richard Dolan who did After Disclosure, he did a really good TV series during the 90s. It came out the same time X-Files did. Ooh. It is called Dark Skies.
Oh, yes, I've heard of this one.
It is.
Yes.
It is great. It's a great TV show. It unfortunately got kind of X-Files was a huge hit. And this show does resemble X-Files quite a bit. Like, if you look at the posters or the promotional shots, it looks like a cheap clone of the X-Files, but it's a great show. It only lasted one season. It's awesome. Really good TV series. But yeah, that's what Richard Dolan did, and I apologize. Yeah, it's not Stephen Greer did After Disclosure, but can't discredit the work of Richard Dolan because After Disclosure is an amazing book.
He's done great. That's another one who was, like, also in the fight for, like, give us the information we need.
Yes.
But Dr. Stephen Greer basically describes in an interview this radar system that was installed very shortly after Roswell, after the Roswell incident had taken place. And this radar system, and the most layman of terms that I can put it in, basically means that if something was caught flying in the sky, and the military could not identify it, it would then be on radar. So you're very familiar with this.
Yeah.
Like you see it pop up and everything, and it's like by satellites
Yes.
and all of that. I'm like waving my hands around like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Audio podcasts, it's not visual.
Yeah. But a magnetic weapon could then be discharged and targeted at the craft. And this was basically a way of kind of upping national security because we didn't know what this was. And this is the military basically confirming that, no, we don't know what this is. Because why would you put in the radar system?
Yeah.
Why would you put in a defense system if you know what's going on?
True.
Yeah. So these were experimented on through the 1930s and the 1940s. And then in 1947, Roswell's radar system was officially on. So Roswell was probably one of the first places in the U.S. to actually get that big, fancy official radar system and pretty immediately have it turned on as well. Because they were like, we're not fucking around with this. No, thank you. So in Roswell, 3 crafts were actually caught on radar.
Wow. So the New Mexican sky is just full of
They're
these
just
things.
full of it.
Damn.
They're just full of it, man. So they were caught, 3 of them were caught on radar. 2 of them would collide and fall into the ground in pieces, bodies included. And then the other one would actually continue flying near Sicario. That word always messes me up. Yeah, west near Sicario, and then it would crash. So the crash would actually result in 1 alien survivor, which would go on to live in captivity for 4 years. Wow. According to Dr. Greer, he met one of the military men that had actually seen the alien in a crate, and he actually said that it was wearing boxer shorts.
Jeez.
Because, we got to cover it.
Yeah, it's like Paul.
Yeah, but it's literally Paul.
Yeah. Great movie.
Paul's an awesome movie. I don't care what you say. What's his name?
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen. I don't particularly like Seth Rogen, but Paul was actually a pretty good movie.
Some stoner alien.
I mean, he's great. Paul is awesome. I'd hang with Paul. Paul would be a fun party. But it lived for 4 years in captivity, according to this story from the military man that Dr. Stephen Greer had debriefed. And Dr. Greer has actually said that he has debriefed many, 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 many people on the fact that there are aliens. He actually said that he debriefed quite a few people in the Clinton administration on these alien sightings and UFO pictures and, just all of these different things. So Dr. Greer not only spoke with the children of those who were involved in Roswell, but he actually had some interviews with those who were actively there at Roswell while they were still alive as well. So this isn't just Joe Schmo coming up and being like, I've talked to people. No, he went in and got in the shit and did the research.
Wow.
And he actually recorded 122 similar encounters and sightings such as these, where crafts have crashed, bodies have been found, military has come in, covered it up under the rug, out of sight, out of mind. Done.
It's crazy to be involved. Was involved in that. It is disparaging. It's all like covering a rug, but very, I guess, fortunate for us that he was involved because he would later come out and disclose this stuff and let us know what's actually going on. So fortunate enough for us, he was involved.
He's very in the mainstream of getting things undisclosed. And even after the big Senate hearing where UAPs were involved, which I'm going to talk about the fact that they call them UAPs. I'm not getting away from that. He came out and he talked about how this was such a monumental day and everything for the Undisclosure Project. And, it's just this man has pretty much sacrificed his entire career in order to do this. Yep. He has no more military clearance, no more government clearance. And once that shit's gone, that shit's gone.
Yes.
So
no getting it back once you've shown you can't be trusted or have gone against the checkpoints put in place. You're not getting back into it.
No, you're not. People
But he has spoken in front of Congress and stuff following this, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's big into what is this, and a lot of it stems, and we'll talk about this also. A lot of it also stems from the fact that we need to know what's in our skies. Like, it's not just what is it? Is it a UFO? But are we going to war? Is this someone trying to spy on us? Like, what is going on here?
I think something too, like, we talk about New Mexico, and then even back in like spring, we did the Phoenix Lights, and maybe one of the reasons that there's so much activity in these like desert areas because the West is like kind of less populated, I guess. Like if you like look at a map at night of the United States, you'll see significantly less light pollution out there. So I kind of wonder if that's these beings are maybe steering clear of these more populated areas, and that's why the desert has this like influx of activity is because there's less population. And maybe less chance of them being seen or caught or drawing attention. So maybe that could be why the desert is the American West does have an increase in activity, or at least high profile activity.
Well, we talk about it in Bermuda Triangle as well, where people have seen things up in the sky as well. And then I think there was, I want to say it's Africa, a place in Africa that has a lot of UFO sightings, lights in the skies being seen. So just a lot of these really remote areas that don't have a whole lot of light pollution are seeing things. And then you get Elon Musk, trying to put up satellites in the sky and then scaring my ass half to death.
Bailey.
Listen, I just want to know if you're putting stuff in the sky, just let me know. Send me a letter, a text is fine. But if you guys will recall the experience of the nurse who actually assisted in the autopsy of the alien that was transported from Roswell to Wright Pat, of that nurse who very shortly after this was actually transferred from her unit and then unfortunately passed away in an airplane incident. Or an airplane accident, which you can find more about that in 01. But these are the types of cases that Dr. Greer is investigating and is looking further into, and is like, wait, hang on, what did you see? Like, just tell me what it is. So the Air Force would actually release a news special report in July of 1994. Roughly around the time that all of these interviews with the survivors and the descendants of those involved with Roswell were being interviewed. And I think it's called Public Records is the channel on YouTube where all of these things got released. It's not originally where it was released, but it was U.S. National Archives and Public Resource org are where I found those. But these interviews were being released in the 1990s, and very shortly after, in July 1994, titled Roswell Case Closed, Air Force released this special news report. And this was a response to the General Accounting Office, the GAO, inquiry regarding the infamous crash, because we have a lot of spotlight now back on this. And it's kind of like every 20 years it pops back up because, of course, 47 into 50 was a huge time for it. 1970, we get Major Jesse Marcel's true account. And then in the 1990s, we get Jesse Marcel Jr. now talking about it.
Interesting.
So it was like, we're not letting this die. Like, we're getting an answer.
I don't think Roswell ever. I don't see it ever taking a backseat.
I really don't.
It's such a huge event, like in American history. I mean, as much as it's like this fringe UFO conspiracy type thing, it is just a very significant piece of American history, and just how the U.S. government can make a statement and immediately redact it. I mean, it's if anything, it does just so distrust the American people, whether or not you believe in UFOs or not. It still does like just show how sketchy the U.S. government can be.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I mean, they really took it a step further with this news report from the Air Force, in my opinion. So the report basically waves off the two different cover-ups that were given for Roswell. And the two different cover-ups we've already kind of talked about. The first one being that of a weather balloon for high altitude weather frequencies. And the second cover-up was that of Project Mogul. And did I say that right?
Yeah.
Mogul? Okay.
Yeah.
Project Mogul was basically a spy operation where the U.S. was trying to get sound frequencies of the Soviets testing atomic weapons. So they hooked in microphones to these weather balloons and would fly them over top of Soviet Russia in order to track how they were testing, or if they were testing atomic weapons. How this ended up in New Mexico, we don't know. We don't know. Russia found it, sent it back, said, here you go. So those were the two cover-ups that were given. And again, why would you come back and tell us that it was a spy balloon after you already said it was a weather balloon and after already redacting a statement? It's so bad. It's so bad. So the news report would state Air Force activities, which occurred over the period of many years, have been consolidated and are now represented to have occurred in the 2 or 3 days in July of 1947. Can we just deconstruct that first sentence really quick? Because Air Force activities, which occurred over a period of many years, have now been consolidated to represent what have occurred in the 2 to 3 days of July 1947. So you're telling me that all the shit you were doing over multiple years of time, you are now just going to say, actually, that was going on in July 1947. That's what you're going to tell me?
A lot of I guess, what you'd call it. I guess there's
bullshit.
Yeah, a lot of bullshit. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's what you call it. It's bullshit. So the aliens that were claimed to have been seen during the Roswell crash were actually that of anthropomorphic test dummies, so very human-like test dummies. And they were carried by the U.S. Air Force high-altitude balloons for scientific research. And they were basically like tied to these balloons. And that's what, and I mean, they're actual dummies. Like, they are very just weird looking. And see if I got a picture of them here. I got a picture of them here. Yep. Little crash dummies.
Oh, yeah.
Little crash dummies.
Yep. Crash test dummies.
Mm-hmm. With like actual face details and everything. Why would you put face details on a dummy? But I also don't like dolls. So
there was a cartoon in the 90s about crash test dummies. Yeah, there was a lot of toys and stuff. I had a bunch of the toys when I was a kid.
Of course you did.
It was a really weird
creepy,
cartoon.
Creepy.
Yeah.
No. Don't like it. So the unusual military activities, like calling the mortician about how long to keep a body on ice, were all due to high altitude research balloon launch and the recovery operations.
Jeez.
Because they called a mortician and we're like, so how's the body chemistry for something that's been out in the sun for like 18 hours? How long can you put a body on ice for? No, we don't need you to come out here. We're just asking questions. Which that was the strangest part of the whole freaking thing. So the alien bodies that were seen at the hospital after the crash, the Air Force is actually attributing to 2 different instances. One instance was of a K-97 aircraft accident in which 11 Air Force members perished, and the other was a manned balloon mishap in which 2 pilots were injured. There are 2 problems with this explanation. The K-97 crash actually took place in 1956, and the manned balloon mishap took place in 1959, over a decade after Roswell. So you're telling me that these people who came out within the following weeks after Roswell are now time travelers? Okay, all right.
Interesting turn.
I'm running with you. Now, we've talked a lot about who Jesse Marcel was and the redaction and cover-up number 1 and cover-up number 2. This incident, again, I'm going to harp on, was detrimental to Major Jesse Marcel. This man had worked extremely hard on his career. He was recommended by quite a few higher up. I know we talked about Brigadier General Roger Ramey. He had actually wrote a letter of recommendation for Major Jesse Marcel to be in the bomb group. So the fact that everyone was just kind of like, no, we're gonna play ball and go with this weather balloon story. We're sorry, Major Marcel. It was just kind of like the biggest slap in the face I've ever heard of in my entire life. And this man kept a journal and a professional log in August of 1947. Much later, his writings become extremely different. There's no mention of Roswell after 1947. He never talked about it with anyone after the incident. His family never talked about it. When Marcel Jr. was interviewed, they did ask him if there was like a general feeling of, we can't talk about this. And he said, yes, for a long time. It was very much like it can't be talked about. It was almost like PTSD for some people because Jesse Marcel went through the ringer. His name was completely dragged through the mud. And I mean, even going even further, because we've talked about this debris, the Marcel children, grandchildren have all said that the debris that Marcel were holding were not that. So you have generations of people that are coming in and saying, like, that was not what my grandpa was holding. That is not what I saw that night. So just so much of a cover up. And unfortunately, Major Jesse Marcel was the fall guy for this. He absolutely was the fall guy for this information getting out, and just, it was completely wrecked. It was absolutely awful. I wish so much for everyone to realize, like, he was actually like a very well-educated man. And we kind of see that in the day after Roswell. Let me pull up those authors, because that is a fantastic book, and we go into it in the other file. But that is by William J. Brines. It's also narrated by him on Audible, and it's also by Philip Corso. And they go into a lot of detail about what actually happened the day after Roswell and how the CIA and the FBI were very concerned about it. They actually do talk about in chapter 5, which is probably the best chapter in the entire book, about how Stalin was shitting his pants thinking that we had actually recovered UFO technology.
Oh, I bet. I can imagine, because we would clearly, there's a lot of theories that we have already, but I mean, we would just reverse engineer it. We'd have this highly advanced technology on our side.
Yep. And that's also what the book goes into as well, is that there were actual big warehouses of multiple UFO ships that had been recovered that people were attempting to reverse engineer. There were bodies that were found. There was one gentleman who saw a body and then saw an alien body and then went off the deep end, quit the military, incognito, never heard from him again. Just too much for him to handle.
I can see that. I mean, if you didn't have this, or if you didn't believe in aliens, it would really shock your core beliefs. It would.
I believe in aliens, and I think seeing one for myself would just completely jar me. Knowing.
Definitely.
Because there's a difference between believing and knowing.
Yes.
And also believing it and then seeing it. Because I don't know. The closest thing I've ever come to is this real life is when Ben proposed to me. And I'm not even shitting you. I was like, this isn't real. Spent 10 minutes convincing me that he was proposing to me, but that's a story for another day. So now the big things. How does this affect our culture? How did Roswell affect our culture? Well, number one, aliens got real mainstream.
Yeah. Huge pop cultural impact.
Huge. Little green men all over the frickin' place, because that was what was described as Roswell. That's kind of how we get our sort of stamped image of aliens in our head now, of the big-eyed green men. I also think some of that does come from the Hopkins Goblin case as well. I think a lot of that comes from that.
Sure.
But the Roswell TV show in 2019, did you watch it?
No, because I think because it's a reboot of Roswell. It came out in the 90s, and I was never a big fan of it because it's like a soap opera.
I
never got into it. Yeah, I never got into it.
Well, this TV show played with the idea that aliens who landed in 1947 were actually living among us in plain sight. So it's a TV team screen. It was on the WB network, now known as the CW. This show was developed, produced, and co-written by Jason Katims, who was also behind Friday Night Lights. One thing that I found really interesting, or actually really funny and interesting, is the show was actually almost canceled after its first season.
Wow.
But the fans loved it so much that they reacted by sending the studio thousands of bottles of the beloved alien's favorite condiment, Tabasco hot sauce.
That similar thing happened with Jericho. You ever seen Jericho?
No.
That's a show I always liked. It's about this town, and I can't remember where it's at. Maybe New Mexico or Colorado, possibly. I think it is Colorado. But it's this town. It's a very remote town, and basically the United States gets involved a nuclear war.
Oh wow.
And this town is isolated. They're far enough out where they weren't impacted by the nuclear fallout, and they're just trying to survive and trying to figure out what's going on. It's a very interesting show, And same thing happened with it. Like it got canceled, and I forget what it is that people sent, but basically they like sent a bunch of shit to the studio and let their voices be known, and eventually saved the show. But I think they got like 1 or 2 more seasons out of it. But yeah, a very similar thing happened with that one.
No, you're not canceling this show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a lot of that too, where like the fans came out and were like, absolutely not. So like we like this. So, but I also found the hot sauce to be really funny too, because we see it in Fringe, and I hope in the X-Files, I don't know, maybe you can confirm or deny this for me, where the Men in Black will have a lot of hot sauce. Like they will eat a lot of hot sauce because they don't have any taste buds.
I don't think that. So Men in Black only, like traditionally, like Men in Black only appear in like a few episodes of the, because I mean, basically Mulder and Scully are technically Men in Black. Technically. They're these government investigators investigating weird shit, so they're kind of like Men in Black. But traditionally, like the Men in Black are only in a couple episodes.
Yeah. Because I know in Fringe we talked about but we saw the Man in Black who like had like raw corned beef and like just doused it in hot sauce. So that seems to be like a common occurrence, as like, give me some flavor. But the fans actually got 2 seasons renewed for Roswell by sending in these hot sauce bottles. So apparently the power of hot sauce will compel. So how's Roswell doing after all this? Well, they are playing right into the aliens. There is a flying saucer themed McDonald's. There is an alien museum and diners. If you go on to the New Mexico...
Little alien?
I'm sorry? What?
A little alien. That's like... that's a big thing out in Roswell. Yeah. It's like a little hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Little alien. It's in Paul. There, they go to it in Paul. But it is like a real place.
I have to see photos now. Oh, my gosh. The website kills. The website kills me, guys. Did you see this website?
Yeah, it's great. The little alien, yeah.
That is awesome. I love it. I want to go to the gift shop.
I hope to go to Roswell soon for work. I hope I get to go out there.
If you go to Roswell for work, you're going to need a bigger suitcase because I'm fitting in that. Because I want to go. My dad went very shortly after we recorded Roswell. And I should have worn my hat. Darn it. I got a Roswell hat I should have wore. Darn it. So with all of this happening in Roswell, it's now been close to 75 years, or a little over 75 years. 77 years to be exact, since Roswell. So where have we gone from here in regards to disclosure, in regards to government covering things up, and especially that of where is our security at? Because we still have things flying above our heads that we have no idea if they're enemies of ours, if they are UFO, if they are spy balloons. What is this? So 2023, like we said, was a huge year for UFOologists and undisclosure. And that was when the U.S. Senate hearing about UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, was taking place. This was a 2-hour-long conference, and they brought in military experts, researchers, and congressmen, and the most important figure, that Director of Defense.
Of course.
Yep. And I mean, you want to talk about being on a hot seat? Like, there was at one moment that one of the congressmen, I believe, were like, do you know anything about Monstrum? And for those of you who don't know, the 50,000 photo review about what happened in Monstrum was there were 10 nuclear missiles that went completely unusable. Like, they completely just done, can't use them. And they were like that for 24 hours. And the most interesting part about that, if it can get more interesting, is the fact that a red beam of light was seen above that base prior to the missiles becoming inoperable.
Even like UFO or not, like, I mean, extraterrestrial or not, I mean, still that's like a huge concern that there is like device or technology that could just render our nuclear arsenal like inoperable. I mean, for any amount of time. I mean, in the event that nuclear weapons are needed, like it's a matter of like seconds.
Oh yes.
Like I know I've looked into a few different things where like there's only like a very small fraction of time. Like if we are ever to detect nuclear weapons in our airspace, Like it's a split-second reaction.
Yep.
Like it has to be like evasive. So I mean, if a nuke was to be inactive for just a mere like 30 seconds, that's catastrophic. So
and these were I'm sorry, go ahead.
24 hours. Yeah, I mean
hours.
that we're dead by then if we ever need them. So
and this wasn't the only base that went inoperable. Wow. A few weeks prior, another base had another 10 missiles that completely went inoperable.
Jeez.
So this was the second time that this had happened. And Monstrum Base had no idea about this until after the fact.
Jesus.
And we're still fighting to get answers about this because the Department of Defense was directly asked in this Senate hearing about this specific incident. And they said, we have not had a request to look into this. We have no information on that. And we are completely unaware. And God bless the congressman that did this because he went, well, I'm asking you now, and this is pretty official. So I would like more information on this. And I was like, boy, you get him. You do it. You get him. So hopefully we have more information come out in the near future regarding Monstrum, because that is pretty huge. 10, 20 nuclear missiles going completely inoperable. Like our entire country is in danger. So social media plays a huge impact on today. And how does it help? How does it hinder? And are people even being believed? Do you think social media helps with UFO sightings today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a great app. I've been trying to get in touch with the people that run it. Enigma.
Okay.
It's a great app that you can find. It's a social media app that basically you're able to go and like post like your UFO sightings, and it has a live, constantly updating map of UFO sightings. And it's a whole social media aspect to it. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. You can set alerts. So like if, for instance, like Columbus, I get alerts for if there's any UFO activity reported in my area, and I can set like a range. This is free promotion for Enigma. I've been trying to get
Enigma
sponsor. I've had many emails with them. Enigma, if you hear this, respond. I've been trying to get. I've had a couple interactions with them. We just never could get a date lined up for having them on. And this was like back end of last year, so I'll push for it again. I'll be like, hey, I want to do that because. If you don't know about Enigma, check them out. It is an amazing app.
Seriously.
I think it's only iOS right now, maybe, but it is awesome. But yeah, social media, huge for any kind of sightings. A lot of, I think the world of ufology and cryptozoology like benefit greatly from social media.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I think it helps a lot. It can hinder some too because you obviously get those like scammers and spoofers who are like, oh, I saw a UFO, and then it ends up being Stargate. But I think it's been great. I think people are being believed a lot more too because we're looking at other sources other than it being alien or extraterrestrial. We're now looking at like what is happening in our airspace for the sake of the security of those who are in our airspace currently. Like our U.S. pilots, our 747s, our passenger planes, all of those things. I think we've come a very long way in UFO disclosure. The fact that we even had a Senate hearing about this and it was taken with the utmost seriousness has come so far. And I think here on out, I think we're only going to press for more information. And I also think that we're going to get a lot more information because of that pressure that is being applied to our government to disclose this information.
Yeah. It's an amazing time. Like I said, it's like golden era for us, for people who believe in this stuff. It's validation. It's just progress. I mean, it's amazing that we live in this time where the government and official reports and top officials are just openly talking about UFOs and aliens and extraterrestrial life, and it's amazing. It's truly just like you look back at the way this stuff was talked about in like hushed tones and taboo, and now it's just there's full-on government Congress hearings where people are talking about these famous UFO reports and things that people have been talking about for years and have been just shut down. Mm-hmm. So it's awesome.
There's so much more validity into the claims now, and much of it is very well deserved, especially those people who are like, I've held on to this story for 2, 3, 4 decades, and now I'm finally ready to talk about it and find out what exactly is going on. But my dear listener, what do you think? Are we harping over Roswell too much? Or is there more information that the U.S. government is not sharing with us? And if so, what are your thoughts on why? But I think without any further ado, we have talked about Roswell Revisited, the cause, the effects, the aftermath, the disclosures, all of that good stuff. And this is just a story that, honestly, this is a web that just keeps weaving and going in and out.
I wouldn't be shocked if we do a part 3 on this.
Oh my gosh, no, honestly. There was so much. Yeah. There was absolutely so much to fit in here, but I love this topic. Anytime you bring up aliens to me, I'm like gung-ho for it. Yeah. So, but that is Roswell Revisited, guys.
Well, here we are. Season 3 is kicked off, and it's fall. Everything's nice and cool, and it's dreary in the best way, and I am so excited. And one of my fall time traditions is to sit down and watch the Harry Potter movies. And I was like, man, is there anything I can do that's Harry Potter related for Cult Talk Conspiracy? And I found one. So next week, or next 2 weeks, here on September 17th, we are going to be talking about the mystery of Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone, the true story that inspired Harry Potter and the lore around it. And we're going to deep dive into that. We're going to talk all about the mystery and the allure of immortality and the desires of man. So that is going to be a fun one. And it just ties into my fall time tradition. So if you want to get cozy and listen to some very, very interesting deep dive into the real Philosopher's Stone, get ready for September 17th. It's my fun one. I decided my episode in September is always going to be my fun episode. So yes. I did The Simpsons last year, and I'm like, September is going to be my fun month where I just do something I want to do. But there you guys have it. Make sure you guys follow us at Cult Talk Net across the board: Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, of course. Keep up with all the updates on Cult Talk Net because Culttober is coming, and that's a busy time for us. Make sure you guys follow us. Bailey and I, we're here every other Tuesday for Cult Talk Conspiracy. Cult of Lore every first and third Thursday. And make sure you check out youtube.com/culttalknet for the full video presentation of that, because they do a really cool visual aspect that really adds to their show. You guys gotta give them love. They work really hard on it. It's amazing. If you like Bruce Campbell or Kurt Russell, every now and then on Mondays, Cult of Campbell has Cult of Us is home to all of our Culttober horror movie reviews. It's Culttober all year long. If you guys haven't, go check out Culttober Plus, because it's going to start getting a lot of content here in October, and there's already a ton of content on it. It's a stacked feed, so if you guys want to listen to some old horror reviews that we've done, make sure you check out Culttober Plus. But I think that does it, Bailey. We've kicked off Season 3. It's in the books. We're rolling now. We had a great Season 2, and I think Season 3 is going to be even bigger and better than last year. But that does it.
That is it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is amazing. So excited.
Once again, thank you to Paul, our friend who sent us these amazing gifts.
Thank you.
Can't thank him enough. If you guys hit us up on Instagram, let us know what you think of Roswell.
Yes.
What makes this such an enduring mystery? And do you believe that we have been, in fact, visited by extraterrestrials? Do you think that maybe this whole disclosure thing is some sort of smokescreen to distract us from maybe bigger issues? It's something I've seen posed a lot on social media. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of that. But that does it.
I've been Bailey.
I've been Ty. Until next time, question everything.